All right, let us talk about Python inner classes. So an inner class is a class defined inside another class. So this is a basic definition of Python inner classes. Inner class, which we are going to discuss in today's class, in today's video as well. So the inner class, like the functionality, what is the functionality of an inner class? So an inner class can access the properties and methods of the outer class. All right. So inner classes are useful for grouping classes that are only used in one place. So what it does, it makes your code more organized. Like you don't have to write something again and again, or it won't look messy. All right. So let's create an inner class. All right. So class outer, we're going to create an outer class. We're going to define a function in it, init function, as you already know. All right. And then self.name equal to outer class. Then we're going to define an inner class and define init self.name equal to inner class. Now let's do define. Let's use another class display. Print. This is the inner class and this is it. Now if I call create an object outer and call the outer class into it, it will simply create this outer.name. So let's save this file and let's save this file with the name of inner classes.py and save. So let's run it. And let's see how it works. So this is our output, outer class. Now let's say I want to accessing inner class from the outside. All right. So that's what I want to do. So let's say to access the inner class, create an object of the outer class and then create an object of the inner class. All right. So access the inner class and create an object. Let's say class outer, define init, self.name equal to outer class inner, define init, self. All right. So self.name equal to inner. Now let's create a define display function. Self. Now print hello from the inner class. All right. And now let's say outer equal to outer inner equal to outer dot inner function. I'm gonna call it an inner dot display. That's it. Now save it. And run it. Here, hello from the inner class. Now let's talk about if I want to access outer class from inner class. How do we do that? So inner classes in Python do not automatically have access to the outer class instance. So let's say if you want the inner class to access the outer class, you need to pass the outer class instance as a parameter. So let's say pass the outer class instance to the inner class. All right. So let's say class outer, define init, self, self.name equal to let's say. Now class inner, define init, self outer, self dot outer equal to outer. And now let us define display self print f, so outer class name self dot outer dot name. All right. So yeah, this is it. Now I'm gonna create an object outer equal to outer class and then inner equal to outer dot inner outer, and here I took a wrong name, and yeah, and inner dot display, and yes. And here is our output over here, which you can see. Now let's take a practical example, all right? Practical example. Let's talk about like inner classes are useful for creating helper classes that are only used within the context of the outer class, all right? So inner classes are useful for creating helper classes that are only used within the context of the outer class. So let's say we create use an inner class to represent a car's engine. So let's say I create a class car and then I define init method self brand model. So self dot brand equal to brand, self dot model equal to model, self dot engine equal to self dot engine. I'm gonna create a function. Let's take another class engine and define init self dot status equal to off. Define start self dot status equal to running, print engine started. All right. Now let's say we're gonna define drive self like this. So define drive self if self dot engine dot status equal to running, then it should print F driving the self dot brand. And self dot model, and else print start the engine first. Then we're gonna create car and car Toyota and Corolla car dot drive, car dot engine dot start, car dot drive. Here it is, and save it and run it, and now look at it. Now look at the output. So yes, here is our output over here. This is our output. So yeah. So this is here is this our output over here. All right. So this is how you can create inner classes and outer classes inside in the Python using Python. Now let's have talk a little bit about what if we want to take multiple inner classes. So a class can have multiple inner classes, all right? So let's talk about creating multiple inner classes, all right? So let's say class computer, we have it. Then define init self dot cpu is equal to self dot cpu, self dot ram equal to self dot ram, class cpu, and then define process self, print processing data. Now let's create a class RAM, define store self, print storing data. Let's create an object computer and call computer object. class computer.cpu.process, and now computer.ram.store function. Now save, and let's run it. And here you'll see the output. Here it is. We can have multiple inner classes, and this is how it will show you the output. So this is it about Python inner classes. I hope you learned something new, and we'll see you guys in the next video, hopefully.